Hello and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. My name is Chris Ringler, the aforementioned Spooky Chris. I am an author, filmmaker, relative ne'er-do-well. You can find all of my stuff at spookychris.com. There are, well over a decade of blogs. There's some stories in there, lots of reviews, and a sort of mishmash. So this go around, I figured I would talk about expectations. It's interesting, being a movie person. I've loved movies since I was a kid, and kind of following the industry and just kind of keeping your eye on it and stuff. It's interesting, the weird standards that we build for we'll stay with generally movies, but like I'd seen a quote lately. It always makes me laugh when quote unquote serious actors feel the need to kind of pipe up and say how much disdain they hold Marvel movies in, like, oh, it's a fad, and it's stayed too long and it needs to go. Which is always funny to me because those people seem to forget the industry that they work in. And I've mentioned this a million times myself, how there was the Western craze, the musical craze. These are in the past. There was the period dramas. Shooting in horror, we've seen found footage. There's always cycles, and there's always these things that are, they do seem in a way faddish. Historical epics are big ones. And that's just, it's part of the industry, is something strikes a chord. And, one, everybody wants to do it, and then two, they want to keep reproducing it. But it's funny because that kind of a mentality kind of spits in the face of fans who were reading comics their whole lives. It pretends that, comic books, oh, goodness, that's not serious. To which, most of them are they're fun popcorn movies, and there's nothing wrong with that. That was what the industry was founded on, is just entertainment. That's kind of what it's about. And I, as someone who loves Martin Scorsese and very serious, very introspective, very deep movies. I also just watched the new, finally saw Avatar 2, and it's a fun movie. It's a good movie. It's spectacle, but he is trying to say something, and it's interesting. Parenthetically, it's interesting because it's not different than the first, really. It's just you really start to really see this as it's a condemnation of the colonialism that the whole world was kind of based on. In American ideals were based on with the treatment of the Native Americans. So it's very interesting. But it's a big loud movie, and it's trying to say something, but it is what it is, and that's fine. There's a place for both kinds of movies, for the serious movie, but pretending that movies about melancholy couples who are slowly pulling apart and going to get a divorce. It's as callous as it sounds. I can go out in the real world and find that every day. That's why I'm drawn to the fantastic and the weird and the scary and and the thing is too, is, as I've said before, is you can tell that same story about a couple falling apart and just have it in the realm of something strange. But I always laugh at it's a fad. It's fine. There's plenty of room. The people that are going to see superhero movies, horror movies, do like other things, and conversely, they may not actually be your audience anyways if you're doing these deep, movies about serious topics and whatever. That may not be your audience to begin with, so why do you care? mean, the fact is that people, I mean, Oppenheimer is really an outlier for the way people go to the movies. People go to the movies for enjoyment, even if it's to be scared. They go for thrills. It's an amusement park ride. So while they do, I love art movies. People do love art house movies. With the cost of films, with how hard it is to get to movies, with the change of the world. Sometimes you just want to go and have fun. And it is what it is. In the same tone, it's interesting how will in so many people will look back at authors and works of fiction and will just like pull all of the subtext that may not have been there. They like literally could have been someone writing a story. Now, if they write it and it has, reflects poorly on this or that or whatever, now you have to admit it. And you can, if it's turned out to be a big piece, say someone wrote a terribly influential book about, I don't know, killer horses. And it was huge and it was well regarded, but the stable hands in it were fall, if not directly, then very close to stereotypes of whatever. You do have to ask, well, is that just a reflection of that industry? Is it a reflection of the author? Is it a reflection of the times? You can ask those questions, especially when it's a larger, more significant piece. That's. Though I'll say, I think there's a point where you have to kind of bisect yourself and say, okay, on one hand, can you read it and enjoy it? Because that's what it was there for. And then if you're one of the folks that are like, no, I want to know more, well, then you can examine it. But I always laugh when you see people get all up in arms and they have all of these big thoughts and these big statements about authors that are long dead and they can't defend themselves. And then and I've talked about Lovecraft before, but you can read Lovecraft's letters and you can kind of see he obviously had issues with people of foreign birth, presumably with women. He had whatever. It's not for me I didn't know the guy, and I wasn't being personally attacked, as it were. So I'm not the guy that's going to go to bat one way or the other per se, other than to say, it doesn't have to be an either or. For him, you can say these are great pieces of fiction. Some aren't. He's an influential writer that wrote some great pieces of fiction, but he also had problematic themes and characters. They can be two things at once. It doesn't mean we have to damn him as a person because none of us knew him. And any letters he left, or whatever, there's a point where we can't keep playing telephone, especially historical telephone. And that's what we like to do as a society right now, is we are very much like, well, I didn't like him, so you shouldn't like him either. You can't like that person because I don't, it's a weird, that side of it becomes a weird, kind of like a high school thing. Well, if we were really friends, you wouldn't like that person. So it drives me crazy though, that, and again, in literary discussion, in film discussion, these are topics to bring up, but you also have to do it and be honest because you are bringing your own personal biases. You may have been personally offended by that work. And so you are if you're bringing an axe to grind, you kind of need to be honest about it. You can't pretend to be an informed, disinterested critic, we'll say, and then bring an axe to grind. It's not fair. We all have biases. It's the way it is. That was funny. I was in a meeting and they were talking about these awards and stuff, and well, we need unbiased. Who are your unbiased people, and this and that. And there's a point. People have to understand. Everyone has a bias. You hope to have the bias you have is pitted against a sense of duty and ethics, in that you will be truer to those than to some bias. But yeah, it's interesting though, how we, just like horror movies can't be thoughtful, can't be serious, can't be award winning because they're horror movies. They're a roller coaster ride. And it's funny because, we break those kind of rules for certain movies, like the newest Godzilla movie, Year Zero, I think, in sort of Shin Godzilla, you know, got rave reviews and people loved it, but it's still a Godzilla movie. And I think that, with that, those are specifically made by Japanese, and they have, to them, the original Godzilla. I mean, for us, it's like, oh wow, it's a big monster, wow, great, but like, that was so close to World War II, and it was talking about World War II and the bomb and all of that. So there's more subtext to it. And the movies that do best with Godzilla, and I love Godzilla, but that have the most impact are the ones that deal with that and deal with it seriously and how it affected those people. But you can have a fun horror movie, you can have a silly horror movie, you can have a serious one. Like, it's crazy, and again, I blogged about a lot of this stuff. It's to see a movie like Hereditary or Babadook, and like the actresses and the performances they bring out, and to not get any real recognition, at least from the mainstream, because they're genre films. And it's just crazy. It's crazy to me because, again, we'll look at someone who can put on a costume and pretend that they're from the 18th century, and will, like, oh, I believed that she was really a dowager. Oh, I believed that she was heartbroken, but like couldn't show it. I mean, it's just like, acting's acting. A good actor is a good actor. Like, good acting is good acting. I would say that it is much harder to act against a green screen and against like creatures that don't exist, that you can't see, that you are pulling full, making out of whole cloth, like, than it is to play against someone else in a costume. That's just me. But I think it's interesting. We Hollywood's funny. Going back to the kind of serious thing, the idea, it needs movies like a Thanksgiving, like Avatar, like these Marvel movies, because they need people in the theaters, because people at the theaters means that the industry is doing well, and the hope is that the person that goes and sees a Marvel movie will be at the theater and see a trailer for Oppenheimer and go, ooh, I'd like to see that, or whatever serious movie. So it's funny that they all live in that glass house and they're throwing rocks from the inside. Not, they're kind of like not hard. They're like, yeah, and it tinks against the glass, but it doesn't really hurt it because they're always very, oh, I don't care. I think that's all trash. I'm a serious actor. They say that, but they're, because they're made their bones. And then, like, I see a lot of actors that are, oh, I hated working on that. That makes me laugh too. Like I just took it as a job. I didn't want to do it. I just, because they felt heat because the movie didn't do well, or it was lambasted, or their work kind of was lambasted. So, well, I didn't even want to do it. I just had to do it because I needed the money, and I didn't have a choice. Everybody has a choice. Like, there's a lot of things we can do for money. You don't have to take the job that you don't want to take, especially in an entertainment industry. Like, I get it, jobs are jobs, but then don't feel the need to go and kick dirt at it to make it look like you're the punk rock kid, because it's too late. It's just silly. Just like it's silly when people, dig up graves, as it were, like, literary, but or film graves, and like, it was funny, the outrage, the silly outrage, the performative outrage about Tropic Thunder and Robert Downey Jr. Playing a man that was in blackface, basically. When the movie talks about it's everything is in there in the movie. It's all, it knows what it's doing. and people who don't know what the movie are come in the theater late, as it were, and they look at it like, oh my God, I can't believe they do that. That's outrageous. How dare they? And you see that a lot where they, people who haven't experienced these movies, they dig up the grave and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. When a lot of us are like, yeah, no, we know, we were here. Like, we talked about this. we've been there. Or it's just like, yeah, well, we know, but like, it is what it is. We accept it. There's a point where we have to allow ourselves to enjoy things and not feel like we have to look over our shoulders and knowing that someone's going to come up behind us like, oh, I can't believe you like that. Or, how dare you like that? Oh, I'm disgusted. There's a point where we have to be able to have the taste we have. Unless it starts getting into things like, oh, well, no, that's the movie where the person who made it murdered 14 people afterwards. There are films and filmmakers with deep closets and a lot of things that are not pretty. And that it comes down to that kind of stuff. Like, are you able to enjoy the art and not the artist? And that's all personal taste. And again, if it's not right for us to sit here and criticize and judge people because they like a piece of art if the artist wasn't a great person. Because, let's be real. History is littered with crummy people that created amazing things. It's the way of the world. It is happening today. It has happened since the beginning of history. And if we don't, and that doesn't mean we have to partake in it. It doesn't mean we have to support it. It doesn't mean we have to applaud it. But we can't sit there and say like, oh my God, I can't believe you like performer X. I heard, blah, 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 or they did this, or they did that. It's for that person to decide. Because that person may be able to say like, you know what? I get it. I'm just here for the music. I'm here for the movie. I'm here for the book. And that's deep water. It's very deep water. But we sit there and we talk about how art is supposed to be transformative and how it's supposed to, you see all the time how, well, the art is up to the interpretation and it's what you get out of it. And it's, so if you get something beautiful out of something that came from ugliness, I don't know. I'm not the one that's going to sit there and tell you you're a bad person because it's not my business. And I feel like in the last few years we have made it our business, and this isn't about cancel culture and blah, 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 blah. This isn't about that. It's about the idea that we are just way more interested in other people's craps they're taking than our own stink. And we should be very wary about how much we stink. And the fact that we can all, it's a strange thing to think, but like the day I die and ever after, someone can, dig through my bones and go like, oh, well, gosh, I found a blog that he wrote and I just, oh, what a terrible person. Or, oh, a story he wrote or this or that. And they've never talked to me. They've never met me. They only know that. And, well, art should speak for itself. It's not fair to sit there and throw someone into the fire without having more information than you can glean from, a piece of text or a song or a film. All of those are powerful, but they don't always tell the full story. And I would think we'd all understand that because since we all have many sides to us, we have friends that are friends we tell deep secrets. We have friends that we tell how our day is. This is how it is. It's how it always has been. It's not new. And I just wish we could let each other enjoy things and let people like make the movies they want to make and write the books they want to write and sing the songs they want to sing. I don't have to partake in it. I can turn my nose up at it, but it still has the right to exist. Generally speaking, with an asterisk, like there's a like, oh no, that's literally a piece of art that is just talking about murdering people and like literally like when you get in, and it's one of those. It's like porn. You know it when you see it. But just, and again, I'm not gonna try to take on that because that's a whole continent of issues right there in the whole, like, does it have a right to exist? Sure. Should it exist? No. But yeah, it's interesting that we use our fandoms and our opinions against each other, like rams, just kind of battering one another, assuming that we're right and that our opinion is right and that our viewpoint is right and that we're on the side of good. When the side of good, and we know this through history, the side of good changes, which is not to say like, oh, well, I care for people of this, fill in the blank, that will ever be wrong per se. It's just a matter of, you got to also remember that once upon a time, people hated those people and they thought they were right. And then when you decide that you are absolutely on the side of good, it's very dangerous because it gets real slippery. And again, it's the same thing with, like, the whole, I make serious movies, or I know that someone like wrote this and they meant this, and it's there, it's all there. When subtext is still kind of conjuring ghosts that may not be there. I don't know, just something to think about. Myself, I'm going to keep loving my little weird stuff I like. And that's, and trusting myself and my opinion enough to say, oof, I don't like that. Or, oh, I like it. Or, I want to advocate for this, which I do, once in a while for movies that I just think are disappeared to time. But friend, I wish you well. I hope the year has done well by you. I will try to pop in for the end of 2023. You can find all of my stuff at spookychris.com. I am an author. I am a podcaster, obviously. Occasional filmmaker, event person. All of my stuff's online. And I will talk to you soon.